Happy Friday, everybody. I'm so glad that we're at the end of another week. I don't know about you, but 2018 it's going by so fast. Like I can hardly keep up with stuff. And that actually relates to what I'm going to talk to you about today. Because I want to talk about a habit that I have developed years ago when I first started to really grow my business, and one that continues to be with me through today, although I've tweaked it a little bit. So I've long been an advocate of letting clients go, but I've always let my clients go when they were difficult to deal with, or when the projects were too small, or when they just didn't pay enough, or they didn't pay on time. I've always ended relationships with clients because of those types of issues, but I've shifted my mindset because my business has grown so much in the last several months, and especially over the last couple of years. Essentially, from my 2016 numbers, I am set to more than double my income from that year, which is still a 40% boost over what I made in 2017. And because of that, I always have to be adjusting my habits and the clients that I work with to make sure that I'm doing things that are truly the right fit for me. And a lot of other successful freelancers and six-figure freelancer types of tips that it's really more about your mindset than it is about the work that you do. I've always made my decision about letting clients go based on money or just general workability. But what about those clients who are easy to work with? They pay on time, they pay decently, but maybe the work just doesn't light you up. And I've had a client for 2 years that's like this. And they pay on time. It's been very clear what the payment structure was. They pay me by check, so I don't pay any other fees. They're pretty easy to deal with, although over the last couple of months, they've started to add more and more requirements about what needs to be submitted with each piece. And it's adding 5 to 10 minutes per piece to add all those bells and whistles, but they won't budge on the price. And for the longest time, I just kept this client because, I've had them for 2 years. I know exactly what they're looking for. The work isn't that difficult. And it's not like they were hard to deal with, even with the pushback about these new bells and whistles they wanted on each submitted piece. But I started to realize in the last couple of weeks, my assignments for them are always due on Fridays. And I always procrastinate. Like I never start working on it until maybe Wednesday or Thursday because I just don't want to do it. I'm not excited about the work. It aggravates me that they're asking for all these bells and whistles. It just didn't excite me. But I couldn't make that jump internally about letting the client go because they didn't meet any of my other requirements, right? They paid me on time. Overall, they were easy to deal with. Not my favorite. It was a pretty decently sized contract. It was about $1,200 a month. But I just didn't like doing the work, and it had become increasingly boring the last several rounds of work that they'd had me do. And of course I was putting it off, so I wasn't enjoying doing it, and I was procrastinating on it. So when I finally did sit down to do the work, I was just aggravated the whole time, and I was just like, let's get this done as quick as possible. And reflecting back on that in comparison to some of my other clients where I sit down to do the work and I'm thrilled to do it. I've had clients for 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, and it's hard to continue coming up with ideas for those clients in some of those cases, but I still enjoy the material so much or working with the clients so much that I would never consider ending the contract unless something drastic changed. And this was like a middle of the road client. Like I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. But the multi six-figure freelance mindset that's been something I've even had to adapt over my past habits has been, am I happy doing the work? And I encourage you to ask yourself this as you grow your client business. 95% of you who are starting your business or just really beginning to grow it are focused on monetary outcomes. And there's nothing wrong with that. You want to hit 5K a month, 10K a month and beyond. But the habits that got you to this point are not the same habits and mindsets that are going to get you to the next level. And if you read Jen Sincero's work, she often talks about get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And for about the past 4 months, I've been uncomfortable. I've taken on new projects that cause me to stretch my skill set. I've started working on my PhD dissertation again, and I've really cut back the hours I work in my freelance business to work on some other goals that do light me up a lot more than some of these projects. And for several weeks now, I've kind of been feeling I have to let a couple clients go. I have to be very selective about who I work with. I told you last week about the sample project where I turned down any future work because it just didn't make me happy. And so a week later, here I am submitting all the work for this other client, and I'm just like, let's just get it over with and invoice this and whatever. And I reflected back on how I felt last Friday when I made that decision with that other client that doing this work for this client doesn't make me happy either at all, or it's changed over time. I've gotten sick of doing it. I'm just not interested in it anymore. And that is a good reason to end the contract, right? Because not only am I unhappy, but I'm not serving the client at the highest level that they're paying for and they deserve when I am no longer excited about the project, when I procrastinate on it, when I turn in the bare minimum just to get it off of my plate and something I can cross off my to-do list. And I wavered I've been thinking about letting this client go for 2 weeks. And finally today, I just wrote the email and ended it. And, I always tell people to be professional when you end it. And so I was, and I gave them the option, do you want me to do the blog that's due next week or not? And they said they did, and they were fine with it. But for me, immediately after doing it, I felt a sense of relief. Just like last week when I chose not to move forward with the sample project. As you go in your freelance career, you're going to achieve new levels. And there's a saying about this: new level, new devil. You're always going to experience challenges that you've never had before. So after you hit a certain point in your business and you achieve new things, you're going to notice that you're going to have new challenges. So the last several weeks, I have been just kind of tired. I haven't been feeling as lit up about working on projects. I've procrastinated on a couple projects, which is very unlike me and a sure sign that I'm either heading towards burnout or need to make a change. And recognizing that desire to make a change, I went through and relisted what I call my dream clients list. So I always keep track of how much money I have coming in every month from retainers. But this time I made a list right next to that of who I really wanted to work with, who meets all my other requirements, but I also enjoy doing the work. And it represented a loss of $3,000 a month in freelance income. When I thought about it, that extra $3,000 wasn't improving my life, $3,000 worth. It wasn't bringing me $3,000 worth of happiness. It wasn't relieving pressure and stress. Instead, those projects that I had cut off the dream list were dragging me down and making me tired. So six-figure freelancers tend to think differently than freelancers who are just starting to build their business because they have this big picture vision and they're willing to take risks and gambles and change things in their business if it isn't working. Even so, those same habits that got me to the six-figure point will not keep me at the sustained multi-six-figure freelance point. So as my business has grown so much in the last couple of years, I'm now being very mindful of who I choose to work with in an even more restrictive way. So whereas in the past I would have made sure that someone had a minimum project amount per month they were spending, I would of course make sure that, they paid on time and they were easy to deal with. But now I'm incorporating this other level of happiness. How much do I enjoy doing this work? How much do I enjoy interacting with this client? And if there's any hesitation there in the response, they're not the right fit for me. And it can be really scary to let clients go. But I often tell the freelancers that I am coaching who are trying to get to that six-figure mark that knowing who you don't want to work with is probably more powerful for growing your business than knowing who you do. It's important to have an ideal client. It's important to recognize when someone isn't an ideal client and to let them go. And that means leaving money on the table. So every time I make one of these decisions, I leave money on the table. Usually there's some instant payback from the universe. One of my existing clients ups a contract. I land some new contract. But even if that doesn't happen in this situation where I let this client go, I instantly feel the freedom in the decision and confirmation, essentially, that I made the right choice for me and my business and where it's growing, not where it's been. So successful freelancers, those who are growing to the six and multi-six-figure point, have an eye towards that next level that makes them happy in their business. And it's not always about money. Like, yes, I could have kept this client and had more money on my bottom line revenue, but it wasn't making me happy. So once you reach a certain point financially in your business, the question becomes about, is this allowing you to live the freelance lifestyle that you wanted? Like, why did you start this business, right? It wasn't to work 80 hours a week. It wasn't to have crappy clients. It wasn't to do work that was boring. Like, if we wanted those things, we could go get a day job right now. You could go get a 9-to-5 job where you have a boss breathing down your neck and you have to deal with people that you may not like all day long doing projects you don't like. And we always tend to like slip back into those old habits unless you're really aware of your tendency to do that. So for me, it's a whole new thing to incorporate how happy I am doing the project, how much I enjoy writing the content and talking to that client. But it's also freeing because I know in my gut, which has always been right, guiding me in business so far, that I have to make decisions like this to grow even bigger. If I continue doing what I'm doing, I'm going to get the same results I've always gotten, which aren't bad results. They're great results, but it's not where I want to go. So reflect on this as you're building your business. When you're first starting out, it's easy to think, I need to get $3,000, $1,000, or $2,000 retainers. I need that. I need the financial security of that to grow my business, to feel confident I can do this. I get that. We have all been there. But as your business grows, don't get stuck in what essentially becomes like content mill work when you're just doing the same things over and over again because it generates money and it doesn't light you up, and you're not giving the best results to your client, and you're procrastinating, and you're aggravated, and you get so annoyed if you even see that client's name pop up in your email inbox. Don't put yourself in that situation. You don't have to. You have a very clear choice about what you can do with your business, and we have to constantly check ourselves not to go down that path of making mistakes. So for me, today, that meant letting go a client I'd worked with for 2 years, who always paid on time, who was relatively easy to deal with. I didn't enjoy the work anymore. And it's a whole new mindset to do this and subsist at a higher level, both for revenue, but also it's making a statement about the types of clients that I do want to work with and the types of projects I want to work on. And when that initially seems like leaving money on the table, reflect back on why you started this, why you love what you do. It's not to serve mediocre or crappy clients. It's not to be frustrated every day. It's not to work more hours than you would in a 9-to-5 job. You have some bigger why. It could be your family. It could be the freedom to travel. It could be the flexibility of not having to work the same hours every single day, working with a variety of clients. Whatever it is for you, reflect back on that as you grow your business, because most of the time when we're stuck at an income ceiling or a mindset level ceiling, it is because you are sticking with contracts or attracting in more of the same type of contracts that are not fulfilling you and lighting you up. You bring a whole other level of detail and attention to the table when you're working on client work that you are so passionate about. It shows in the end result. You get rave results from your clients. And I first noticed this several weeks ago. I have a client that I'm doing some copywriting for, and it's an organization that markets to attorneys. So it's really hard to have like personality and to make it fun. But I really started thinking like, what can I do that would blow their mind, right? And I wrote this blog post talking about branding lessons that they could learn from a really popular TV show and a snarky TV character. And the client loved it. Like, they raved about it for 3 days. Everyone on the marketing team reached out to me. Because I cared so much about that client outcome and I enjoyed the work and took on the challenge of wanting to do something above and beyond, it showed in the end result. It showed in what the client received and in how they felt about working with me. Whereas the client that I let go today, I was putting off the work every single week. I hated turning it in. I just wanted to submit it so I could invoice for it and cross it off my list. So as you grow, your mindset has to grow too. And it sounds counterintuitive, but as your business gets bigger, the more time you'll spend on mindset versus active activities like marketing. You will spend less time on client work, less time on marketing, and more time on mindset, which seems crazy because it's like, well, if I'm going to make more money, I have to work more, right? Wrong. It's the exact opposite. So I wanted to share this insight with you based on how I've applied this to my own business, because adjusting that mindset and constantly retooling my business, letting clients go, bringing on clients, testing out clients, deciding when to move forward with them versus not, has made a huge difference, not in just hitting a particular income level, but in sustaining that. Like, everybody can be like, oh, I hit a 10K month, I hit a 15K month. The hard part is in sustaining that. And why I've been able to sustain my new income level over the last, I think it's been 9-10 months now, has been a commitment to doing those same mindset practices. And now it's like, okay, I've hit another ceiling. It's time to unlock and go to the next level. And now it's about working with clients who absolutely light me up. So I'm doing the best possible work for them. I'm excited about it every single day. I'm being paid well to do it. And it's the business model that I've always wanted to build as a freelancer, where I don't feel obligated to do something just because it's something I have been paid to do. I hope this has been helpful for you. Let me know in the comments below if you have questions about mindset and how often you practice with your own mindset. Happy Friday!